I don't feel like Wonderwear on Fiora is exactly where Splyce should go.
I don't think so either. Now, we'll take a look at what else they've gotten off the board. Poppy's banned away. That also means the Kalista will be taken away from Fnatic's side. The Lulu is still available. Tahm Kench is the final ban, so does Fnatic go for the Lulu or they do something a little bit different?
We've seen teams fall into the Lulu trap a couple of times. We just saw it from the Unicorns of Love. I can understand, realistically, why there has been so much priority top. Fiora was played by Wonderwear yesterday, but a lot of that game was just Senkux crushing everybody on the LeBlanc. I feel like Corki's probably the best pick here
We
for
did see
Fnatic.
that last game.
You not only secure yourself a great mid laner, you also have the option to put it down in the AD carry role as well. So just versatility coming out from Fnatic so far.
I'll have to see what Splyce decide to answer with. Very well-rounded first pickup for Fnatic. That Lulu is available. I would imagine it would eventually be picked, but not as the higher end of the rotation as what you were saying. Teams falling into that trap before. And Splyce will take their time with this one. You can only wonder what Yamato is whispering in their ears with that dulcet voice of his.
I wouldn't be surprised, perhaps, to see them prioritize the Lucian here. With Kalista off the board, Corki already over on Fnatic. Taking a strong AD carry here could be crucial for Splyce to make sure they don't end up losing the bottom lane too hard. If they pick this Ezreal, it's signaling to Fnatic that we're just waiting for this 2-item point on Ezreal to actually be able to contend with anything. It's not the worst pick in the world, but I think with other options available, with the Lucian up, this does give a lot of the tempo of picks and bans now over to Fnatic. They can look for something like the Lucian and the Alistar, perhaps, and get an engage tool plus the ability to do exactly what we just saw G2 do.
Yes, indeed. I want to see if Fnatic decide to round this comp out with a very mid-game focus, as they already have the Corki in their hands. I'm a little bit curious that the Ezreal was so quick, apart from the Lucian. They have the option to pick the Lucian up now for Reckless. They could do that and the Lulu, and that would give them a whole lot of power in this early and mid-game.
It would do. A couple of champions being hovered over, none of them I think are really going to get locked in by Spirit. Spirit didn't have the best game yesterday, and I hope to see him return to a little bit of his form today. Yesterday we saw Spirit playing the Graves, I believe it was, with the comp they had with Trundle Malphite, that wombo combo, and it just wasn't working. And man, this is like identical to what Gamers 2 did in our very last game that we just saw. Basically exactly the same so far, and Splyce have given them this. Splyce have given them all the opportunity for this. Elise was obviously a priority pick, not really wanting the Nidalee for themselves, but this is such a good setup already for a poke composition.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how this one works out. Fnatic, definitely we've seen, had to question their communication after yesterday's game and some of the games that they've had so far this split, but if they can pull off this comp that requires a decent amount of finesse that they're already building here, they can maybe look just like G2 did in that last game. We'll have to see. Against a team like Splyce, you really never know with the way they've been performing.
I'm wondering, does Splyce blind pick a top laner here for Wonderwear? Or do they say, let's just put the LeBlanc in for Senkux? I would not like to see the Ryze here. Like, I'm going to be straight up. The only time we've seen Ryze on this team was when Wonderwear played it in the top lane, and that was not a good game. He went 0-4-0 in that setup, and it just did not work. He got camped so hard to begin the game, and it was difficult for Splyce to do anything for the rest of the game, with Wonderwear just completely shut out.
That is a little bit curious, and they're really banking on this later game amount of power. The question is, do they send the Ryze to Wonderwear again? As you said, it wasn't a great game for him, or did they decide to put it in Senkux's hands? Senkux had a fantastic game yesterday. He was blanking out everyone left and right on Giants as LeBlanc, and that allowed them to snowball ahead to a victory. That pick is still up. I gotta wonder if they're saving it for the last.
Right now they've got a couple of options. On the side of Fnatic, they can either look for that Corki mid on Forbidden and just give him a solid matchup, or they look for the LeBlanc, take it away from Senkux and put Corki in AD carry. I much prefer this option that they're doing, because it now forces Senkux to pick something that can chunk through the Corki and somehow get a good laning phase against them. They need early game presence here, and I feel like it probably has to be LeBlanc for Senkux.
It might definitely be, but as we count down on that one, I really like the Shen pickup. Just a reminder, we're still on 6.1. This is pre-reworked Shen, so we'll see some Vorpal Blades of flying. Splyce on their last choice. Will it be this Lux? From the back line, they are really banking on not getting caught.
They are. I mean, this is a composition that kind of has a weird mismatch. You've got Thresh and Elise that are looking for picks. If they put the Lux in there as well, you do have a good pick composition, but then have a scaling component alongside of it. So you're relying on getting small little skirmishes in the jungle where you can lock somebody down for a whole lot of time for crowd control if this Lux actually gets locked in. Hook or Cocoon into Lux binding is going to be enough to take somebody off the map. So Splyce are looking to skirmish until Ezreal and Ryze are ready to go, and at that point it's very difficult for Fnatic to get away from fights. Yes, they have the Braum to disengage, but that's not exactly enough to get away from a blue build Ezreal, from a Ryze that is running full pelt at you if they get there.
Yes, indeed. So that will be our second Lux pickup in the European LCS. It does have 100% win rate, courtesy of Ica. Solid performance by him, even though he has had some trouble himself over on Elements. Will Senkux be able to work some magic on this champion? That star Danish mid laner that everybody had been talking up finally showed up yesterday, and of course, a little bit before, but if he can do it again today against Fnatic, we will have to see, as these two teams have locked and loaded their compositions. I'm excited to see how this one shakes out. Fnatic, this comp looks so smart from them.
It does. I mean, I don't dislike the Splyce comp at the same time. I just feel like what Splyce have picked is that bit trickier to get themselves into the game. You're relying on having two champions that need a lot of time in the game, now against the likes of a Corki, an Ezreal, and a Nidalee that just want to shut that clock out, just completely wind your time down and close the game before you ever have a chance to wave clear.
Well, if you guys think they'll be able to do it, tell us at LL Esports, hashtag FNC win, or if you think Splyce can knock off the mass champions, Fnatic, hashtag Spy win. We're still here. We hope you are too. Let's get ready to roll for this game.
It's going to be a tough one for Splyce, I feel. Although Fnatic recently haven't been doing so well in the early game. When you look at the segment that we had yesterday with Crepo talking about the problems Fnatic have had early game, Reckless falling behind, providing a fair amount of gold deficit between Fnatic and their opponents, it is possible that Fnatic's early game is as shaky in this game as well, and Splyce get given the time to get this composition rolling. That's one story we're going to have to watch out for. Mass stack heading topside, though, for Splyce. Spirit's going to cut them off.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
He's not happy that he didn't get an invite to the jungle party, and he will be moving in. Fnatic stacking heavy in this brush right now, but they themselves will start moving into the Splyce jungle, so we see the ward trades back and forth. Both teams are aware of this, by the way.
Well, Fnatic were not up until that point. Fnatic did not spot Splyce going down through the river. Spirit was a little too late, and the rest of Fnatic weren't quite in the right spot. This could boil over. Senkux is shown because he doesn't know Fnatic are there. Now he does. Okay, they've got to know.
Gentlemen's agreement to start the game off. Nobody wants to get your hands bloody before 2 minutes. Apparently this game.
Not from these teams. We've seen it quite a lot of level ones in the last couple of days.
That's true, although it hasn't always worked out in Fnatic or Splyce's favor, to be honest. So it looks like we're in for lane swap, but a double jungle, heavy topside stack from Splyce, whereas the long run for Reckless and Noxiac will be going down to the bottom. So these wards really won't spot anyone, to be honest, but it's a courtesy at this point.
So this is another example of Splyce trying to slow the game. Put yourself in the lane swap, stop Fnatic from trying to dominate the 2 versus 2 lane matchup. I mean, Lucian Braum is fairly difficult to deal with. It's obviously down to the support interactions as well. You can see Ezreal opting for the Thunderlords this time as well. We've seen a bit of a difference when it comes to AD carries, but when it comes to casters, Thunderlords seems to have been the mastery of choice, if you caught Pulse's segment yesterday about runes and masteries on AD carries, so
I reformed all my rune pages actually last night because of it.
I didn't, because I don't no, I do trust Pulse. He carries me a lot.
I'm expecting to get completely all the way up the rankings by the end of the season.
Oh yeah, you're going to be challenger?
No comment.
See, that's my answer every time somebody says that to me as well.
Well, I'll get back to you at the end of the season. As Spirit is moving towards the bottom side with Noxiac, Gamsu, and Reckless, we got ourselves a fast push. Standard start. And the teams don't want to fight each other early on. They know one's got to react to the other, and an equal and opposite reaction in the top lane. Splyce a little bit later to the party, however.
Yeah, Splyce are behind the play on this. They're about half of the turret, of the health of the turret behind now. Wonderwear was on the blue buff, now comes up to help out with Kobbe in this lane.
They wonder where he was. I had to at least.
You had to, yeah. It's
now I
gone.
never have
That's
to do it
it
again.
for the game. That one's
right.
done.
Excellent. So, in this situation, Splyce are obviously a little bit behind, but we also see Fnatic taking their time on it as both junglers are still clearing out their respective opposing jungles. So it looks like it's actually going to be fairly evenly traded.
For now it will be, but I think one thing you've got to look at is the mid lane right now as well. Normally in lane swaps you don't really see too much focus on mid lane, but Feberman on his own is starting to edge ahead of Senkux quite spectacularly. The reason for this is every time Senkux wants to throw out the E and either harass or kill a minion, Feberman throws out his own Q, the phosphorus bomb, and just chunks through the health of Senkux. This is too early really for a Lux to efficiently trade without putting herself in auto attack range against the likes of a Corki. And Corki just has much more upfront damage on his autos, and when Lux tries to step forward to proc her passive, she will get chunked, but not for now. She's not actually trying to proc the passive at this point, but still, CS lead for Feberman.
Feberman very safe, and yeah, he has amassed that lead over Senkux. However, Splyce are the ones that have the slight gold lead. If you take a look at it, it's essentially even, though, as you can see the tick over. Fnatic and Splyce pretty much neck and neck since they've traded the towers effectively. Spirit with his double buffs looking to go up topside, but Wonderwear is already out of there. So we will see also Noxiac roaming up. If they can try to reverse the fast push, it might happen on the bottom side as Splyce converges on the scene as well. And we could be in for that very quick, extended lane game you see so often.
You can see that Fnatic, when it comes to who they want some of the farm to go on, basically doing a similar thing to what we saw from Origin with getting the farm onto their AD carry. Only problem is Noxiac is up there as well, so they are looking to answer it with a push rather than just get free farm. Splyce is doing a very similar thing, so pushing down on the bottom side. This is a fairly hands-off game for this opening few minutes. Neither team have really been in anywhere near the other. And it just makes for a very slow-paced game, and that's what Splyce want.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense for them. I feel like it also makes a lot of sense for Fnatic, given their recent performances, to try and slow things down a little bit and then hit that power spike and then turn, now it's time to fight. This is what we knew them for last year. Yes, it was a completely different team, but there was always that switch. And the moment they flipped it, all of a sudden you saw crazy fights, you saw Barons being snuck at 20-something minutes. If Fnatic can gather that spark back again, Splyce could be in trouble.
They could be. Although I think Fnatic's point to fight is fairly similar to Splyce's, maybe a minute or so, or a couple of minutes earlier on the Fnatic side, around that Trinity Force. It is a fairly expensive item, but then again, so is, you know, the build from Ezreal and Ryze. The time it takes to get to 2 items for the both of them will be later than the Trinity Force. But Fnatic right now going to take that Rift Herald, make sure they can get that little bit extra push potential, but there's not a whole lot to push, to be honest, and they're going against a Lux now who has her ultimate.
Right, but this is not being contested by a Dragon from Splyce. They're not noticing, not aware of it happening. So, effectively, a completely free objective, discounted to the point of 0. Isbeth and Trashy roaming up around the top side, perceiving a threat to answer Kobbe, but there's really nothing there. So for the time being, everything resets, and Fnatic get away with a nice little extra pickup in their pockets.
At this point, it feels like Splyce were banking on Gamsu or the rest of Fnatic overextending and trying to push further into the Tier 2 tower. Fnatic weren't doing that, though. They just backed themselves away, so Splyce have sent their AD carry top now, looking to establish control over the top side. A lot of this is just trying to buy a bit of time for Wonderwear, or normally would be, but look at Wonderwear. He's headed into the top side as the wave is starting to push into the bottom inner tower. Wonderwear needs to be going bot right now, because there's no farm for him to get on the top side of this map. And realistically, he's only level 4 right now. He needs a little bit extra time and that farm. He's on Raptors right now and is able to clear that out, but this isn't getting him into the game particularly any much faster than if he was just sitting there. Look, if he was accepting this wave, the difference here is that Reckless has that buff. All of this is experience that is dying for almost nothing for Splyce, unless they can somehow get kills and the push here out of the top side.
Well, it certainly built up a massive wave, and it's only Gamsu there to defend, but Noxiac and Reckless got to be loving what they're doing right now. We talk about Reckless being Nice little true shot. Reckless being the carry
Too
that's
late.
surprisingly fallen very far behind in these games, but he's doing fine right now.
This is turning into the push onto the inhibitor turrets right now, and Fnatic with 2 people and that Rift Herald are starting to outpush Splyce quite convincingly. They're up to this turret. They will have to back away for the extra minions. Splyce have now caught up. Reckless is having to back here. I think they can trade the turret. The problem is I don't think Fnatic can take the inhibitor if Splyce recall now.
Nope. Tower's down.
It's an even trade.
Splyce need to go back. Yeah, totally even trade, but look at the efficiency, the members that they spend. Wonderware's TPing on the tower. They don't have enough damage to finish it, but they can finish it after the fact, and Wonderware will have to back away. Inhibitor tower's down in 8.5 minutes, Stress.
And right now, I'm kind of looking at this situation, and I'm feeling if Wonderware had backed away and tried to at least receive that wave and slow down the push from Cobby and Nisbeth, we wouldn't have had the same trade overall. Oh man, Fnatic, Febiven could be caught out here, but he's a little too quick. Cocoon landing.
Oh,
great
hooks on! Nisbeth's going in, but he doesn't have any backup. That's first blood! You can't just jump into 3 Fnatic members and Splyce falling back under their tower.
Oh, it was such a nice hook, but the lantern wasn't available. That's the difference between this play and the play we saw from Masterwork in Challenger that we just saw an hour or so ago as we headed to break. Man, that kind of play can win you the game if the team are right behind you and there was no lantern and no follow-up from Splyce. That's going to give Fnatic quite a big boost.
Solid Challenger plug there. Master.
Hey, man, I got to get in.
Ah, that's good. Yeah, Fnatic, they pick up the first blood. Definite mistake. Nisbeth caught the Thresh version of Lee Syndrome. Goes on in without the Lantern being available. But they did have a nice hook onto Febiven, who was able to wipe some sweat off his brow as he realized there was no help coming in for Nisbeth. This tower should be going down in the mid side, as it is now the easiest objective to take. Everything's been pushed pretty far elsewhere. No, with Cobby trashing Nisbeth all there, it's completely fine. We'll still be in for a little while.
Yeah, we're going to be here for a fair amount of time, and you can see Fnatic aren't really feeling too quick about this game. They are sitting in lane. Their top laner and mid laner had over 2k, and you can pretty much just see Corki's gone and gone. Oh, I've got Sheen and a longsword. Finishment 22-4, straight up. Still, we can see Gamsu has a lot of money in his inventory as well. So whatever he goes back to buy is going to be a big boost.
On the boots and Doran
well,
field.
He's hardly been in this game.
Yeah.
He's hardly had to do anything. And that really isn't a problem for Fnatic, because until he needs to ult in, it's not like he's got a 1v1 out Wonderware, because Wonderware's not been in the side lane either. So it's just been a very weird game for top laners in that they've actually done nothing this game.
Yeah, effectively. As Senkux fires the laser, clears the wave. I feel like it's almost, the game seems to be, it looks faster than it is because we are only 11 minutes in, but we've got these massive minion waves, wow, I can't
Minion
speak
waves,
today.
they could be
Thank
minions,
you.
but it's a
Not
little
yet.
too early for
I'm traveling in time here. The minion waves are pushing, and they're massive, but the clear is super easy because the towers just do so much damage. Look at Wonderware. He's starting to roll on up. He's still sitting on the tier, but he's doing a lot of damage to these. They're just not as strong yet.
Yep, Wonderware just pops his ult, goes, okay, I'm going to clear this out. The rest of my team are taking their first dragon of the game. 4 towers apiece on this one, and man, Splyce, I kind of want to say they've slowed the game, but again, it's like, it feels like it's much later in the game. And as Fnatic have now hit that item point where they can start looking to group on Febiven, this game may start spiraling a little bit against Splyce. Lux isn't at the point where she can reliably clear every wave that comes into her. Her ult is still only rank 1. You don't have that 40% cooldown reduction, so it's not like you can throw it out every time the wave pushes in. So that's one thing they've got to be very careful of.
Not to mention, both Cobby and Wonderware are still shy of half their stacks necessary to finish the tier. So they're relying very heavily on Senkux at the moment, who is still pretty much sitting on wave clear duty, but he's still behind. You look at Febiven, this guy has been out CSing him the entire time. Yes, it's not really been a game of sitting in lane, but the mid laners have done the most of it, if there's something to be said for that.
I just find it really interesting how Splyce prioritized Ezreal so early on in their draft. Like, that's not something we've seen from a whole lot of teams when Corki and Lucian were available. Well, Corki was picked up by Fnatic, but Lucian was up, and they could have locked that in to deny it from Fnatic, and ultimately Lucian fell all the way down to the last rotation of picks for Fnatic. So, I mean, this Ezreal has to pay off for them. They have to get Cobby into the late game and start getting the damage down from that blue build Ezreal if it's going to warrant that first pick. And thus far, it's not his time in the game yet. So,
But there's still plenty of time on the clock. Remember, we're just shy of 13 minutes into this game. You wouldn't know it looking at the open inhibitors, but Senkuk's still working on defending this mid tower. Fnatic, they definitely have a strong level of power. I think they're still waiting for Reckless to ramp up to become that big, massive, culling, popping Lucian that we've been seeing so much of. But Splyce are perfectly happy to, I think, let this game go as long as they want.
They are, but this is a big departure in playstyle from yesterday, when we saw Splyce with the LeBlanc just going ham. In the early game, just constantly going forward because Senkuk's was so fed. They nearly lost that a big amount of their lead in that game with the middle push that came. And that was problematic for Splyce. We did see there was a few issues when it came to their shot calling. And I just wonder, will we see them be able to play this tricky composition out well enough to hold on for long enough in this game?
Yeah, that always is the question, because we've seen Splyce try to play tricky, and it has not netted out anything for them. They lost 3 games in a row, but is the improvement there, or are they just doing simpler things in their last 2 victories?
Well, I think the first victory was just playing a simpler style. I think yesterday's was just a very clear-cut. Senkuk's got to 10-0 and it was like, hey guys, I can blow up everybody on the map.
Open
Not
mid.
a problem. Yeah, exactly. At that point. This, however, is the test for the shot calling and the strategy from Splyce. The problem is, they're up against a composition that's going to be difficult to catch out. I mean, Febiven is going to have that cleanse, has the Valkyrie, difficult to lock down Illusion as well. So, and every time they try and engage, Gamsu's going to have that ultimate available. We haven't seen it forced out yet. There has been very little fighting back and forth between these two. It's been much more about that first 6 or 7 minutes of play where we saw the inhibitor tower trades.
Right, and it's worth noting that, you know, looking at the team that's behind this composition as well, Fnatic, they may be a completely different team than last year, and they may have had their troubles communication-wise and otherwise, but this is still Fnatic. This is still the 5-time European LCS champions, and you can't take that lightly.
5-time?
Did I say 5 times?
You did say 5-time. 5-time. It's that's an accomplishment. You can see them on the walls.
Yeah.
It
would be all the way, but then there's Alliance.
Well, I mean, there's got to be a blemish on the record somewhere.
You can't
be perfect all
unless you're 18-0. Not this time though.
Do we still class it as perfect if you're 0-18?
It's a perfect losing record, yes.
A hypothetical future situation. Can we call that a perfect split too? Yeah,
why
we
not?
did so badly. Well, we'll see if any team ever gets that kind of record. That's a tough one to get. I believe we had like a 1-17 last year from over in North America, but
yeah,
nevertheless.
Oh man, not gonna happen this game though. These two teams still sitting tied, 7th place position, both looking to move up the standings. Obviously, things are gonna shift quite tectonically week to week. But Fnatic, you know, they looked so sloppy yesterday against G2, and we just saw G2 with a masterful win over Unicorns, but still far from perfect. I feel like the old adage is still half true. Everybody does beat everybody.
I'm not sure if Fnatic is going to win this time.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, there's still a long time. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You heard Mithy say that as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not just us saying that. Players know it as well.
Yeah.
This game's a marathon and not a sprint as well. So if ever it was an apt saying, it would be this one, because we've got a Ryze and an Ezreal in this game. Fnatic still a little hesitant to try and push anything. They're struggling against this Lux and the Ezreal clearing out, but Febiven's been given time in the mid lane to actually push up. Problem is, look at the rest of Splyce coming up through the river. Febiven's got to be careful and get out of there fairly soon. Does have his Valkyrie up. We are bot lane right now because Hobby has 3 people of his own to deal with.
Okay, he's got the arcane shift. That's fine, but you can just see the moment anyone tries to step too far forward, something else happens. Reckless. Febiven on the backside. They dive in for Wonderwear, knock him aside into his own tower. He flashes. He's running, but a culling will stop him in his tracks.
Is it over though? Because Senkuk's is here. Can he get a double binding?
He hits one on Febiven. Laser. It was cleansed before the laser came in. Febiven stayed alive. Gamsu was able to TP after the fact. Still, close call, and we've got a true shot coming in. Is that enough damage? It doesn't hit.
Wow, nearly missed delivery on that one. As Febiven, you can see how difficult it is to kill him. He's got the cleanse, the flash, the Valkyrie. Everything against this Lux is going to be so difficult. I mean, he's even got Noxiac to start blocking things as well once this game gets into a little bit more grouped fights. Fnatic have finally cracked that mid tower, and that is really that big bastion for Splyce to hang on to. Fnatic are looking for their dragon, or their first dragon of the game this time around. So this, again, removes a little bit of that timing for Splyce. Splyce could have looked potentially to drag this game out to a significant 5 dragon point. I don't like
talk about a few weeks ago.
I don't like seeing Splyce drag it to 5 dragons because I have flashbacks from when they played Maus in the Challenger Finals.
Oh, yeah.
They had like 30 dragons in one series.
That was a different meta, though.
It was. But Splyce have showed a propensity to play this meta where they're playing for the later game. Only really in 1 or 2 games have we seen them taking a style which is much more active in the early game, and this is not one of those games. The lane swap forced them into a situation where they could take an inhibitor tower, but ever since then, the last 10 minutes have been very slow-paced.
Oh, a lot of it has to do with that composition. You see the tiers still stacking for Wonderwear and Kabi, even though he's turned that into a Manamune. But it's still going to be a while before they feel comfortable going in. And against a team like Fnatic, how much does this affect your mentality? Yes, they got 2 wins on the board, but they've also got 3 losses, and they don't want to fall further down in the standings. This is a team that, if you remember correctly, at the very beginning of their formation, their owner, Marty Strenzewilk, said they were aiming for the playoffs. So far, you need to keep winning them.
It's a good goal. It's not too late to get yourself in the playoffs. They're in a decent spot as well when you look at the performance of the likes of Giants in some games. Roccat and Elements, both of those teams have, like Splyce, have had good games alongside it. So there is going to be kind of this tooth and nail fight as we get closer to playoffs. That Splyce, Elements, and Roccat may end up all be about these games against the top half of the table. Those that get wins in these big matchups could be in a better playoff spot.
Yeah. And watching, of course, together, Yamato Cannon, Taylor, coaches of each team, is really, you get a lot of time in games like this to kind of think and analyze a lot more, especially as a coach. And those two, one makes a lot of noise, one's definitely a lot on the quieter side, but they do have a big influence.
I have a theory, and I don't have all the evidence right now to have it pan out. If I'm not mistaken, both games that Yamato has won a turtleneck, I believe Splyce have won. I feel like that could be a sign. Maybe businesses with
we
a
need
tie.
more sample size here.
Well,
Talk to
at
Spellsy
this
about
time,
it.
we've got Fnatic using that culling just to push Splyce back.
Such a low cooldown, easy peasy. Of course, Reckless still working towards his rapid fire cannon after he picked up the Essence Reaver. Nesbeth, nice dodge of the Nidalee Spear. Spirit, speaking of, obviously we talk about Nidalee needing to have an early game impact, and he's gone this little bit more earlier power route. Hasn't gone for the Rod of Ages. I feel like this is definitely not going to work to Fnatic's strength if this game does drag on to the 30-40 minute mark.
Well, the problem is we're getting to the point where Splyce want to be at. They have the Iceborne Gauntlet. They have the tier finishing stacking fairly soon. 707 right now on Ezreal. The tier is already stacked for Rise. They're about 500 gold short of the Seraphs coming out from him. So Splyce are nearly in that situation that they want to be in. And they can hold lanes now with the Lux ultimate. As long as they don't end up in a situation where Fnatic are going full on siege against them, they should be okay. Ooh, Hook
Close.
narrowly grazes Febiven, but
By a
doesn't
pixel.
catch.
So Noxiac and Reckless will be able to take this tower on the top, and you see the gold difference between these two teams. It's about 5,000. It's going to be a bit more here. Well, equalized now by the outer turret taken by Splyce. But still, this is mostly really just Fnatic and their early and mid game being more powerful, but they haven't pushed far enough. The 2 kills have extended, the extra towers extended. They've got to make moves soon, and you can see the collapse going in now. Gamsu, taunt onto Trashy, doesn't hit anyone else. Febiven gets the rocket. Splyce are already in retreat, though, and they can't get anything.
But it's the health bars that are the important thing right now. Kabi, Nisbeth, and Trashy all have to look to back away. It's now on the rest of Splyce to clear this out. Senkux will throw out the ultimate, gonna clear out the wave, and deny the push from Fnatic. But as the next minion wave joins, they have to deal with top and bottom as well. And Splyce could be spread out a little bit thin here. The rest of Fnatic are recalling, though.
Yeah, they are recalling, but still they will have eyes on Splyce. You've got to look at that jungle. Top and bot side lit up like a Christmas tree. They will know the movements of Splyce quite well. 5K is the difference, still in gold, 22 minutes on the mark. Dragon will be up in another minute and a half, but that's still going to be a pipe dream for both these teams to try and pick up anything more significant off of that particular buff, as Fnatic looks to try and chase the sidewave dream.
Well, this is it for Splyce. There are the big items that they needed. 2 item Ezreal, 2 item Rise. If ever there was a time for Fnatic somehow to, you know, force themselves into a situation where they're extending this lead, they have to do it fairly quickly. They could be running out of time now against Splyce. It's tipped the other way around. For the longer this game goes, without Fnatic advancing their lead, Splyce will continue to come back into this game. And this, realistically, is in a position that Splyce have partly earned themselves, but is also on Fnatic not controlling the vision game quite well enough, not being able to catch out Splyce when they were at their weak point.
I continue to just be on wave clear duty, trying to force something, force
they
a
caught
reaction, but Spirit, he's gonna be caught, he's
Goodbye.
hooked. Kabi takes him out, and now the fight is on. Nisbeth's blown up, Noxiac gets the credit for that. Trashy being chased back under his own tower, but meanwhile, back in the mid, Kabi's low but surviving. Spirit is already down, and so is Nisbeth, as we said. Noxiac, however, is gonna be caught. Too low, Lux Laser dodged as Noxiac was already dead. A 2-for-1, and Splyce crack open the mid lane.
You can see how difficult it is for Fnatic to get away if they get caught by any of the crowd control that Splyce have to offer. Just layered one on top of the other. I'm a little surprised that Kabi didn't get more involved in this fight. Here's the catch. That's just clinical at that point. Good special delivery in from Forbidden to cut this fight up. But look at Kabi. He's forced all the way out of the fight. This is prime real estate for poking, but Fnatic is so healthy that Kabi has to respect and lifesteal a little bit off the minions. He's actually not dealing damage for the majority of this fight, so Fnatic may be a little bit baited into the fact that they took a long time for the damage to come from Splyce. It's all because the AD carry wasn't really involved in that fight.
Yeah, you gotta wonder if they will attempt something like that again. It was a quick move by Febvin to try and answer back Spirit's untimely demise. Still, he retains his good score, but this has been a very, very low action game directly, and I think Splyce are about to change that.
4 pink wards in the inventory of Splyce. Get them around the jungle of Fnatic. Put the vision down. Get that mid and bottom tower right now. The only thing you've got to be careful of there is Fnatic looking for some kind of Baron, so as long as they keep it warded, it should be fine. Lucian is going to show top in about 20 seconds, and that could actually be, you know, the catalyst to potentially be the game-losing fight for Fnatic. If Lucian shows top, Splyce could just pick somebody off very quickly. They don't have teleport on Wonderwear, though. They do have teleport and the ultimate from Gamsu, but the rest of Fnatic are drifting topside with the push from Lucian, so they aren't able to catch him out alone.
Now, Splyce were actually allowing Fnatic to kind of dictate the movement there on the map, so more wards aplenty being placed as they struggle to clear them out on the side of Splyce. Fnatic continue to keep their eyes on Splyce's team.
It's understandable, because Splyce are behind right now. And we know that they've seen that they're at the point where they can start to fight, but it is still Fnatic's game. They are still in the lead right now. Problem is, if Splyce start making the tougher decisions and actually fighting for the vision control, denying Fnatic's, you know, pathways into their own jungle, Splyce can close this gold lead very quickly because Fnatic aren't actually receiving too much in the way of objectives or farm at this point. It's pretty much all that mid lane unless they're overextending into the bottom lane or into the top lane. Gamsu still sitting quietly down in the bottom side. He has teleport, has his ult.
For the time being, Splyce still able to defend, but you're right, the pace that this game has gone at has been very strange for both these teams, and Splyce, I feel like they don't know that they have the power they do right now. They know that they have this double tier comp already stacked up, but they haven't pulled the trigger, and it's partially because of the vision that Fnatic have had on them. Reckless is going forward, looking for Wonderwear. That's a quick flash out of the Rise. Taunt does not connect, but now Gamsu's locked up. Spooky Ghost, they've got him knocked in, and Gamsu having to send another dash. There comes the culling. Rise eats a huge chunk of it. Gamsu is in the bush, but he's stunned up, and he's into all the members of Splyce, and he'll be taken out by Wonderwear.
Now Splyce need to defend mid. Fnatic actually can't get too much more than just that turret off it, so it is that turret gain, but how much vision control can Splyce reclaim from that fight? Fnatic won't really be able to get too much more of that turret without pushing forward, and if Splyce can at least control their jungle pathways, they can deny Fnatic's ability to continuously path through Splyce's territory on the map. Just gotta clear out these wards. Still a couple of pink wards in their inventory on the side of Splyce. And they are getting a good amount of clearance going. They're also grouping up mid, trying to push down in response. Gamsu's going to be up soon with the teleport available. Wonderwares is not available. So if Splyce were to make a play onto Baron or something like that, it would probably not be the right answer. I mean, Wonderwear on the bottom side is not offering pretty much anything to the team other than just that ability to push the bottom wave out.
Now, he's got his teleport nearly off cooldown now, and that will be the chance for Splyce to maybe get into the back. They have a few wards, not too deep, but if they Fnatic group up maybe around the Baron, Splyce can bait them into that, they might be able to turn it around. Fnatic, though, they're playing this very, very safely.
Yeah.
They are pinging the Baron, however.
Well, this is one of the problems you get when you see kind of that poke disengage style going up against the poke kiting style, is nobody's ever engaging hard enough to kick a fight off properly. It's only ever if you pick somebody off on their own, which Splyce have the tools to do, but Fnatic haven't been in the situation for all that much. So you actually end up with very few fights. In comes the same type of play for Fnatic once again.
Yep. Gamsu is farther away. Reckless still trying to finish off Wonderwear, but his full culling was not able to connect as the minions got themselves in the way. Wonderwear stays safe for now, and Fnatic still trying to find picks of their own to see if they can start this Baron, but they'll just go for it right away. Oh, spotted by the blue trinket.
Miscommunication by Fnatic. Febiven wanted to start the Baron. They've got teleport available for Splyce here. Nisba's taking so much damage. Good flash away from Gamsu, though.
Yeah, Gamsu is already low, and they've caught Noxiac in. In comes Febiven to try and separate the fight, but he has to burn flash immediately as the exhaust is on. Wonderwear gets knocked up, and he almost gets chunked. Spirit goes forward. Zanya's on. The hook doesn't connect. Nobody dies just yet.
It's kite disengaged. Like, at this point, like, neither team really wants to fight without this big crowd control landing, or Fnatic just getting poked from a distance. And it leads to a situation where neither team, when they get to half health, is confident enough to close this fight out. At one point in this game, there is going to be pretty much one person that will close these fights out, potentially two, and it should be Wonderwear. Wonderwear at one point is going to realize, damn, I'm strong enough to take out everybody. He's not quite there yet. Even though he's at 3 items, he's taking so much damage at the same time. You saw the shields have to come out to save him. You saw the heals used by Splyce as well. But he's just not quite there yet.
And we're able to CC him down. Well-placed Braum ultimate from Noxiac. Kind of saved that day for a moment. And also you could see Spirit jumping in, changing his mind immediately. No, I need to hit the Zanyas. But you're absolutely right. The poke disengage, the poke kite, when they meet, nobody really wants to go in for it. So now the Lux Laser comes in a step too late. Fnatic pick up Drake number 3. Splyce still sitting on 1. Fnatic might be the team looking for Dragon 5 at this point. And despite the scaling factor, should be in Splyce's favor. Fnatic, if they can take a well-placed fight, they might be able to turn this game in their favor. Or in their favor. They still got a gold lead.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Fnatic have got a gold lead, but they're playing very tentative. They have to because of their team composition. One misstep into the cocoon, into the binding from Senkux means whoever gets hit gets taken off the map. They can't risk that because the death timers are getting so long that Splyce would be able pretty much to take enough of the base that it would end the game from Fnatic.
Well, this is the thing. I feel like both teams are not playing to win. They're playing not to lose as Fnatic decide to try and go for the Baron, but immediately spot several Splyce members in the midfield.
Wonderwear's top with no TP. If Fnatic can somehow get an engage,
they're going to try.
Wonderwear's got to start moving. Like, that is real nerve to hold that top lane push for now from Wonderwear.
Yeah.
Knowing he's in vision, the rest of his team are backing away. Also, the fact that Splyce are probably communicating that. They're like, no, we're fine, we're backing away. We don't need you to come down here. But Wonderwear is kind of just running on the spot. Look at his minimap. Look at him on the minimap. He's just running back and forth on the spot. Do I go top? Do I come to mid? Indecisiveness from Splyce right now.
Yep, the game starts to balance on a knife's edge. As you said, those death timers keep getting high. Fnatic holding that 5K lead, but that just means so much less than it did 10, 20 minutes in. Reckless goes ahead and pushes the wave right on back, and neither team wants to fight. Nisbet dodging out the hook. Whoa, sends out a hook of his own. Meant spear, actually. Gamsu's able to shadow dash away. Wonderwear and Kabi keep on pushing. They're just trying to play the mini wave game.
Yeah, they are right now. And honestly, if Fnatic are playing the minion wave game, one thing I would have liked to have seen them do, the unfortunate thing in this circumstance is that Braum goes Locket of the Iron Solari, which is a fine choice. I think if they had the room to go for a Banner of Command up against a Lux, up against a Ryze, up against an Ezreal, good luck clearing that. However, Fnatic, 3rd time's a charm for them, apparently.
Something
heading for the
they were famous for about 10 minutes earlier.
Well, they
and
got
last
blue
season,
trinkets.
trying to take out the Baron early. It's taken down. The laser does not come in time. Smited away by Spirit, and this might be the chance for Fnatic to keep on moving forward. But they're trapped in a bit of a choke, and they don't want to go for it.
Well, this should be one of the big points for Fnatic to help them win the game. Look at the waves top and bottom. They should just be able to choke out Splyce right now. There's not enough wave clear on the Splyce lineup to actually clear every single wave at the same time, but Fnatic are looking to group on bottom lane. They haven't caught Wonderwear out, but they will push that wave through. It did get mostly cleared out, though, so...
Just there, Reckless is really
it's
far
because
forward.
the inhib's still open. From 8 minutes in the game, now the inhibitor is getting sieged up by Fnatic. It's the easy option for them.
Yeah, Noxiac trying to Unbreakable. Kabi goes in a lot of damage onto Febiv in there, making Fnatic rethink their strat. The laser, Febivin's low, but he's not dead. Nobody dies. Here comes the True Shot Barrage. It almost, nobody's dying this game. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Nobody is falling, and man, there's the damage from Ezreal. Everybody's saying, why are we seeing Ezreal picks? Why are we seeing it? Like, late game Ezreal with blue build is really strong. You connect one Q, and basically the person dies unless they use like flash and heal and every escape.
Febivin's reaction time, just that quick.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
It is. But what I do like to see as well from Fnatic is they go, oh, you've got a lot of AP damage. I'm going to build a Hex Drinker. Both of their ADs have built a Hex Drinker as well. Man, you can see Senkuk's taking a lot of damage as well. Fnatic are winding this one up. Now that they got the Baron buff, this is their time to really close this game.
Yeah. Oh, good taunt into Senkux. He's gonna nearly get taken out, still staying alive, but the tower's not so lucky. Noxiac in the front, Wonderwear locking up Gamsu, but he's the tankiest member. Noxiac finally falls. Everyone's starting to go down in this. Big shutdown for Febivin, and he takes out Wonderwear. The inhibitor's gone. This might be the end of it all. After a very, very strangely paced game, Fnatic look to try and close out, but they won't do it just yet.
Wonderwear just died with his Flash and Seraphs available. 1v1 in that fight. That should not happen with a Ryze at this stage in the game. Ryze should be able to blow up almost everything that he touches, but the fact that he's not got pretty much any armor against a double AD composition as well makes it so tough. He's built a Void Staff, and yes, there is magic resist on the side of Fnatic, but it makes him squishy too. Wonderwear is unable to output consistent damage in these fights.
It's the rookie mistakes, man. You've got to look at it as such, and Splyce have a lot to learn from this game. If they can't hold off this Fnatic push, who've extended their lead now. We talked about Splyce eventually getting to this double tier ramping up period, but they just haven't been able to pull the trigger, and Fnatic have consistently squeezed them all the way into their own base. Splyce are going to try for a last-ditch effort here, but they reveal a little early.
Well, if they get a catch on for Bivin, that's pretty much the thing that'll turn this game around for them, but that's a tough
They got
ask.
Reckless. He's out. Wonderwear, he's in trouble. Can he get the Lantern back to safety? Yes, he can. The disengaged game continues, and we got a pause.
We have got a pause, man. Whew.
What a moment for it.
Well, at least they backed away. It's
Mostly.
just Trashy and Gamsu
Locked in Mortal Kombat.
locked forever in Mortal Kombat right now.
Or they could surrender.
Yeah.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, so it looks like it is Splyce pausing at this point. Looks like a monitor issue.
Trashy's talking,
Trashy's
trying to
like,
get the issue fixed,
I'm
but
outside of my base. I thought I was in my base. Why am I here?
well, we'll get that one resolved for a moment, but for the time being, we get to calm down for a little bit as we kind of had this very slow build up to the action, and then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. But now, in the moment where we are, everybody's still up. Most of the ultimates are still available. Reckless has spent a calling, but that comes back pretty soon. Noxiax is still coming up. The Lux Laser's available. No one really wants to fight right now because everyone's just backed off, so that's pretty much how we should resume. Fnatic's still in a hefty lead, and they've got the 2 inhibitors. No more Baron buff, though. What do they do from here?
Well, for Fnatic, I would say all they've got to do is just wait for mid and bot to push in and continue what they're doing right now. That means they got to be careful that Splyce don't engage on them. They wait for somebody to go clear those waves out, come back around to top side, try and push the turret in. They've also got the option if they really feel like this game isn't going to get closed out in the next couple of minutes, which it should do, realistically. Dragon is coming up in 30, and that could be a point of contention. So Trashy is back now inside the base. And Fnatic They are kind of tentatively backing away, but they want to stick around. It's Wonderwear that's clearing these waves out. Now he's got to try and deal with 2 waves as it continues to push in.
Yeah.
Now it's on
Rise wave clear,
Fnatic.
man.
They're going
Outside
to
of
play
ultimate.
slow and steady here.
They are catching tanky members, but they just can't follow up. Nisbeth really needs a clutch hook onto Reckless or someone, but it's so hard, especially not with that QSS he's got, too.
They got so little damage on this tower.
Oh, we're back.
Oh, we are back with another pause.
We'll have to take a look at what it is this time, but Fnatic's still sieging up this top side. Such a tense moment. I guess it's trashy again.
Yeah, I think it's just an issue with the monitor by the sounds of it. So hopefully, should be a fairly quick fix. Although nothing's been fairly quick about this game.
Definitely. Well, when there has been action, it has been quickly decided that no one will die.
Oh yeah, that's been one.
With few exceptions, 4-4.
Yeah, this is just the game of pacifists right now.
Well, you said it again, time and time again. The poke disengage, the poke and kite. And when the two come against each other, it's kind of like a watch and wait, but no one wants to make the first move.
I want to say it's like the unstoppable force, the immovable object.
Except it's 2 immovable objects.
Yeah, except it's like 2 objects that are just moving around each other and not doing anything.
At glacier speed.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite the slow-paced game. But nevertheless...
A lot of defensive builds as well. You know, the double
Yeah.
Hex Drinkers on the side of Febivin and Reckless to top it off. And really, it's been so hard to sneak objectives. Fnatic were able to secure that Baron, which really helped them propel forward. I feel like at this rate, they might need another one to close it out, though.
Perhaps. I mean, you look at this situation, for a team like Splyce, this is a big test for them. Because, like, they're still only in their 6th game now in the LCS. This is pretty much new ground for them. Being in a situation playing up against the former champions for Europe, and now they're getting dragged into a spot where their composition should be working, but they are still behind. So they've got to play this defensive style and just hang on for a little bit longer. They caught Reckless.
Yeah, this time he's got Gamsu at his back. However, tower is going low. It will finally fall, and they move in for Trashy. Gamsu, they've caught him up, but he jumps back up, jumps back down. And Fnatic don't want to push their luck. And wouldn't you know it, everyone's still alive.
Turret has died. The minions have pushed in mid lane, though, so it allows Fnatic to creep themselves back into the base and get the inhibitor. It's not too risky for them to get this right now, but Wonderwear is so low on mana as he runs in.
Finds Spirit, but Spirit will throw the Zhonya's down the laser. It will connect. They managed to grab one. It's Noxiac. The rest of Fnatic on the retreat path. Reckless in the front. Trashy chasing him down, but he turns tail and runs. They've got to go back and defend the base. There are no inhibitors, and the Nexus turrets, one's already
lost
down.
one. Yeah, they've lost one already. Senkuk's so low mana right now. He's just trying to proc as many of those light passives as he can. Splyce, I want to say they held on, but they lost so much from that. Like, the game didn't end off it, but losing a Nexus turret now allows Fnatic to go to the Dragon, take that, put themselves on a tipping point of 4 Dragons to either win the game on that or look for the Baron in 2 minutes. Last Baron power play, not the biggest, but there wasn't a lot of objectives to take.
That's the key thing. But they did what they needed to do with the side minion waves and to occupy the attention of Splyce. So even though that's not a significantly big gold difference, they still were able to do a lot with it.
And of course, the Baron power play is the changing gold difference. So if there's not a lot of big gold objectives, like towers to take, you know, objectives like that, it just means that the farm that the enemy is getting kind of starts to cancel out some of the difference that you're gaining from the objectives you're taking. So that's why it was a little bit lower than the average we've seen of like 3K from last split.
Teleport coming in from Rise. Fnatic know this is happening. See if Wonderwear can get something done. He zooms towards Noxiac. Nothing.
Yeah.
Fnatic. They've got the mini waves. They've got Febivin, but he's immediately going to cleanse that. All that stands between Fnatic and victory here is one tower and some members of Splyce, but they're starting to fall. Gamsu follows. Both top lanes are down, but Fnatic are going all in for this one. About time, I'd say, as Kavi around the backside. Trashy moving out of the way, but they've left the Nexus exposed. The Super Minions doing battle, but it's not going to matter. GG, Fnatic wins!
Fnatic wins in a very turtle speed game, and you feel like Splyce should have been at home in that 40-minute period where it's like we're getting to the point where Rise should just annihilate everybody. This blue build Ezreal should be melting most things that he touches. Problem is, Rise couldn't survive long enough in those fights. Ezreal ended the game on 2,000 gold as well. Like, there was a lot of just mismatch for Splyce when it comes to when they were fighting.
it was a very strange game, no matter how you look at it. Fnatic, you've got to be happy with a victory considering where they were sitting before this game. But against a team like Splyce, as they were on the up and up, still playing incredibly passively, you have to mix things up if you're Fnatic moving forward. So they'll have to take a look at that and work on it. They do have some easier opponents on paper going forward, though, as they already faced the top contenders in the league.
Yeah, they do. And, you know, that slow pace isn't getting punished against the teams that are on the lower side of the table, which leads me to believe, like, Fnatic, I think, will look at this game and say this was a lot harder than it should have been for us, just from the pacing of the game. Fnatic were pretty much always in control of this game when it comes to the gold lead. But if they face this kind of composition from a better team, they really could get punished hard from some of that indecisiveness.
They certainly could, but, you know, as the team themselves said, they need a lot of time to work on things, to build themselves up, to rebuild the team, as they lost 3 members from their dominant Worlds semi-finalist finish. But on the other side of Splyce, it's very close. But unfortunately for Yamato Cannon, no turtleneck, no victory.